She thought I was just going to sit there and take it, that I'd smile while she flirted with another man right in front of me. Everyone in that restaurant thought I was the fool, until I showed them exactly who the fool really was. Before we get into it, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. Now let's begin. It was a Tuesday night, the kind of evening where the world feels quiet and predictable. I had just finished seasoning steaks on the grill, hoping to surprise my wife, Amanda, with a nice dinner. The backyard smelled like sizzling rosemary and charcoal, and the sun cast a warm glow across the patio furniture I'd built by hand last summer. Amanda was inside, finishing a Zoom meeting for her marketing job. At least, that's what she said. I poured 2 glasses of wine and took a deep, proud breath. 15 years of marriage, and I still believed I could make her smile with a simple evening like this. I remember leaning against the counter, listening to the faint sound of her voice from the living room. She didn't sound stressed like she usually did. She sounded excited. A teasing laugh. A softer tone. Words meant for someone she wanted to impress. I stood frozen, spatula in hand. Maybe it's just a client, I told myself. But doubt has a way of sneaking into your bones, chilling you from the inside. She walked out a moment later, phone in hand, cheeks flushed. When she saw the table set for 2, she forced a smile. The kind you give a neighbor, not your husband. Oh, wow. You didn't have to do all this, Ethan. I wanted to, I said calmly, scanning her face for something real. We haven't had dinner together in a while. She sat stiffly, like she was waiting for permission to leave. As we ate, she brushed off questions about work, changed topics when I tried to dig deeper. Her eyes kept drifting to her phone beside the plate, screen facing down. That small detail hit me like a brick. Screens face down hide things. While I cleared the plates, she stepped away to the hallway, whispering into her phone. Her voice was soft, flirting, breathy. I didn't need to hear every word to understand that I stared out the back window, watching the grill cool and the last trail of smoke disappear into the night sky. When she came back, she seemed bolder, like a decision had already been made inside her. Ethan, she started, shifting in her chair. I think we should spend some time apart. I didn't speak, didn't flinch. I just looked at her and let her keep going. I love you, I do, but I need to explore who I am outside of this, outside of us. I want to date again, see what's out there. I want freedom, but I don't want to lose you. You mean too much to me to cut you out of my life. She smiled like she expected applause. So maybe we still live together, she continued. Still support each other. Still be friends. Just without the marriage label. We'd both be happier. Freedom for her. Security from me. My heart was pounding, but my face was stone. You want a separation, I said, but with friendship benefits. Amanda's eyes brightened with relief, like I finally understood her genius. Yes, exactly. We keep the good parts. You're my rock, Ethan, but loosen the rest. I nodded slowly. Her shoulders dropped, tension melting away. You're okay with this? She asked, wide-eyed. I forced the warmest smile I could muster, the one that had gotten us through funerals, debts, layoffs, every dark moment. If this is what you want, Amanda, I said gently, then I'll support you. She let out a breath and even laughed, a high, delighted sound, like she just solved the biggest problem in the world. She kissed my cheek and rushed off to call someone. Probably the same someone who made her giggle on that Zoom call that I watched her disappear into our bedroom. Her voice lifting, happy, finally alive. And I stood there alone on that perfectly set patio, the night breeze brushing across my cooling plate. She had no idea that the moment she asked for freedom, she gave me freedom too. I turned off the grill's last ember and whispered only to myself. All right then, Amanda, friends it is. But she forgot one important truth. Friends don't owe you a damn thing. The next morning I woke before Amanda. Habit, I guess. I brewed coffee, the rich scent filling the kitchen like always. But this time, every movement felt different. Lighter. Freer. Amanda eventually came downstairs wearing a bright new smile, like she'd finally taken off a tight pair of shoes. She kissed the air somewhere near my cheek, grabbed her mug, and said she had plans after work. Plans. She didn't even bother to hide the excitement in her voice. I simply nodded. Friends don't pry. That night she came home late, humming through the doorway with a small bag from some fancy boutique. She tossed it on the couch and kicked off her heels, expecting me to ask about her evening. I didn't. Her humming faded quickly. The shift began the next day. She opened the dishwasher and frowned when she saw her dishes from breakfast still sitting in the sink. "Hey, could you load these when you get a chance?" she asked. I looked up slowly. "Those are yours, Amanda. I already cleaned mine." Confusion crossed her face like a shadow. "But you always handle the dishes. That was when I was your husband. Now we're friends. Friends don't do each other's chores." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue. Then she walked away without a word. Later that week, she came home rubbing her temple. "My car is making that weird noise again. Could you look at it this weekend? I would love to help, but I'm pretty busy." Friends recommend professionals when they can't help. "Gary's auto should handle it just fine." "You're being weird," she said. "Am I? I thought I was being respectful." Friends don't assume the other person will drop everything for them. She stared at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle missing half the pieces. Grocery day arrived, and this was where the lesson really landed. She noticed the empty fridge and sighed dramatically. "We need groceries." "We?" I asked with a polite smile. Her frustration cracked through. "The house, Ethan." Then I handed her the math. "Your half is about $60. Would you like to transfer me the money or shop for yourself?" She froze like a statue. "My half." Friends who cohabitate typically split expenses. Standard practice. "You're serious?" "Completely." She walked away, but not before muttering under her breath. The silence afterward was delicious. By the second week, the bills arrived. I placed them neatly on the counter in 2 piles. She found them and stared like they were written in ancient code. "What is this?" "Your portion based on usage and mortgage split. $840 this month." "That's insane. I don't make as much as you." Friendship doesn't usually consider income differences when sharing costs. If it helps, I can recommend more affordable living options. Her face drained. "You're trying to push me out." "I'm honoring our agreement. Freedom and independence. Isn't that what you wanted?" She stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door, but friends don't chase each other down hallways. That Saturday night, she came home late again, makeup smudged slightly, eyes tired. She approached my room and knocked softly. "Can we talk? I need someone tonight." I opened the door halfway. That sounds like something a spouse would provide, not a friend. Emotional dependence crosses boundaries. Try talking to someone who doesn't complicate things for you. Amanda stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. "Since when do you care about boundaries?" "Since you set them." Then she whispered, "I didn't mean this." "Really?" "Because you said you wanted to discover who you are without me. I'm giving you space to do exactly that." She walked away with quiet footsteps, and for the first time since she announced her grand new life plan, I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. The next days were quiet. Too quiet. She started doing her own laundry, cooking her own meals, paying her own share of things with a clenched jaw because every transaction reminded her that freedom wasn't free. Meanwhile, I read more, slept better, brewed my coffee with no tension in the air, and I noticed she watched me sometimes, trying to read the new version of me. Then, one evening, the doorbell rang. Amanda stepped into the hall just as I opened the door. There stood her best friend, Heather, holding a bottle of wine and smiling like sunshine. "Hey, Ethan, hope it's not a bad time." "Never is for a friend," I replied. Amanda's eyes narrowed for reasons she didn't yet understand. Heather joined us for dinner. We laughed, shared stories, found out we both loved hiking the lake trails up north. Amanda sat stiff and silent, poking her food, watching something unfold she could not control. And I didn't do anything inappropriate. I didn't flirt. I didn't touch. I didn't cross a single boundary. Amanda's boundary. Her rules. Friendship rules. When Heather left, Amanda lingered in the living room doorway. "You two got along well." "That seems to bother you," I answered calmly. She didn't respond. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. Because freedom, once again, was proving to be a two-way street. Heather and I kept finding excuses to talk after that dinner. A quick text about a funny meme. Sharing a song recommendation. Asking how our days were going. Friendly, harmless, exactly within the lines Amanda drew. Yet every time Heather's name lit up my phone, Amanda's eyes sharpened just a little more. One Thursday evening, Heather invited me to join her and some coworkers for trivia at a cozy pub downtown. I accepted without glancing at Amanda because friends don't ask permission. When I returned that night, Amanda was sitting on the couch pretending to scroll her phone while she waited for me. "Have fun?" she asked, too casually. "Sure did. Our team won third place." Heather carried us through the pop culture questions. You and Heather are spending a lot of time together, she said, as not leaving her screen. That's what friends do, right? I replied. She locked her phone, jaw tight. Just seems fast. Maybe you're not used to me having my own life outside of you, I said with a polite smile. She stood and left the room, footsteps sharp and angry. That weekend, Heather stopped by to return a book. We ended up sitting on the porch talking for an hour. The conversation flowed easily like we were old friends who had just met late. Heather asked me real questions, listened, and actually cared what I answered. She had a warmth that made you want to stay just a little longer. Amanda eventually pulled into the driveway with shopping bags. The look on her face when she saw us laughing on the porch could have curdled milk. She forced a smile, but her eyes were fire. Heather left soon after, and Amanda wasted no time. What is going on with you and Heather? She demanded. We're becoming friends, I answered simply. Good friends. She crossed her arms tight against her chest. You know she's my best friend, right? Yes. And isn't it great when the people you care about get along? She stared like she wanted to argue, but didn't know which angle wouldn't make her look ridiculous. Later that night, she came into the kitchen while I was writing down a budget for next month's bills. Look, she said, trying for a calm voice. I think maybe we need to set some rules. Rules? I repeated. For what? For us. For this friendship thing. So nobody gets hurt. I nodded like I was genuinely curious. And what kind of rules are you thinking? Maybe we don't date people we both know. Maybe it's better to stay away from mutual friends. Oh, so freedom with exclusions. Independence with territories. That's not what I said, she snapped. It's what you meant. She took a step closer, eyes pleading now. Ethan, this is hard for me too. Watching you and Heather, it's weird. You said you wanted separation. You said you wanted to discover who you are apart from me. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. She rubbed her forehead, pacing. Just take it slow. At least talk to me before making plans with her again. I looked at her for a long moment. Friends don't owe each other status reports on who they spend time with. She stopped pacing and sank onto the chair like she'd suddenly run out of oxygen. The next few days changed everything. Heather texted me asking if I wanted to try a new Mexican restaurant Friday night. I agreed before I finished reading the message. When I mentioned my plans casually while pouring a glass of water, Amanda dropped her spoon into her cereal bowl with a loud clatter. Again? She asked. Twice in 1 week. Friends can see each other more than once a week, Amanda. That's normal human interaction. She pushed away from the table and stormed into the bedroom. When Friday came, Heather arrived at the house to pick me up. Amanda stood in the hallway, arms crossed, pretending she wasn't blocking the door. Going out again? She asked, voice tight. Heather offered a polite smile. Just dinner. We'll be back early. Amanda laughed once sharp. Sure. Dinner. Then she looked right at me. And you think this is okay? Isn't it? I answered. This is exactly what you wanted. She took a shaky breath. Did you ever think maybe I didn't mean it like this? Oh, I thought about that a lot. But then I remembered you were very clear. Freedom. Exploration. No pressure. No expectations. She stared at me like she wanted to take back every word she ever said. But words don't work like that. And Heather was standing right beside me, waiting. So I walked past Amanda and got into Heather's car. As we drove away, I glanced back once. Amanda stood alone in the doorway, staring after us like her whole world had flipped upside down. Dinner with Heather was the most natural evening I'd had in years. No tension, no pretending, just two people talking, laughing, living in the moment. Afterward, we sat in her car outside my house, neither of us really wanting the night to end. I had spent too long starving for affection, starving for someone who genuinely wanted me there. When I finally stepped out of her car, Amanda's car was gone from the driveway. Heather watched me walk to the door. Everything okay? She asked gently. It will be, I said. She gave me a soft, hopeful smile before driving away. I walked inside and the house felt silent, too silent. On the table were 2 stacks of unpaid bills and a note in Amanda's handwriting. We need to talk. When I'm ready. I stood there a long moment, holding that note between my fingers. Then I set it down and smiled to myself, because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the one being left behind. Amanda returned the next afternoon, her car rolling into the driveway slow, like she wasn't sure if she belonged there anymore. Heather was with me in the garden planting small tomato vines, our hands covered in soil and sunlight. Amanda stepped out of the car and froze when she saw us laughing together over something small and stupid. She walked over, chin high, pretending confidence she didn't have. "We need to talk," she said firmly. "Sure," I replied without standing up. "Say whatever you need to say." Privately, she insisted, her eyes flicking toward Heather. "Heather's part of my life now. You can say anything in front of her." Amanda hesitated, then sighed heavily like she was about to give a speech she had practiced all morning. "I want to end the separation, Ethan. I want to go back to being married." I looked at her, waiting for the rest. She pushed ahead, words tumbling out. "I made a mistake. I thought I wanted freedom, but what I really wanted was to feel appreciated. I went about it the wrong way, and now I see what I've lost." "What exactly are you losing, Amanda?" "You," she said softly, "us, everything we built." I stood and brushed dirt from my hands. "The life where I paid every bill, fixed every leak, carried the weight while you searched for yourself? That life?" She winced. "That's not fair." "Fair," I echoed. "You asked for friendship. You got it. Now that friendship has rules you don't like, suddenly it's unfair?" She looked over at Heather, who stood quietly behind me. "This doesn't have to be permanent. You're just confused because things happened fast." "I'm not confused," I said evenly. "I finally understand what I want. Someone who chooses me completely. Someone who doesn't treat commitment like a trial period." "I am choosing you," she pleaded. "You're choosing comfort, Amanda. Security. There's a difference." She turned to Heather, desperation leaking through her voice. "You don't understand our history. You can't." Heather stepped forward, calm and steady. "I understand enough. He deserves someone who appreciates what he gives while he's giving it, not when it's gone." Amanda's face twisted, half anger, half heartbreak. "So that's it. You're just going to throw away 15 years of marriage for her? You threw it away the day you decided marriage was optional." "People make mistakes," she whispered. "They do. And sometimes mistakes close doors permanently. There's nothing I can say to fix this." She asked, "You can accept it's over." Her eyes filled with tears. "And her? You're just replacing me with her?" "I'm not replacing anyone. I'm finally with someone who wants to stay." "For how long, Ethan? Until you get bored?" Heather met her eyes without flinching. "That's not who he is. And it's not who I am either." Amanda shook her head, trembling now. "You think you know him better than I do?" Heather's voice stayed calm. "I know he's honest. I know he doesn't play games. I know he meant every word he said to you even when you didn't want to hear it." Amanda broke then. "I need to get my things," she muttered. "Take whatever you need," I said quietly. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Wherever you want. You're free now. Remember? That was what you wanted." She didn't answer. She packed through the evening, moving mechanically, every sound of a drawer closing echoing through the house like a small funeral. When she finally left, she paused at the doorway, eyes wet, and whispered, "I never thought you'd stop loving me." "I didn't stop. I just stopped waiting for you to love me back." The door closed softly, and the house exhaled. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers came. I signed without hesitation. She tried calling at first, then texting, messages that began angry, shifted to apologies, then to silence. Freedom has a way of teaching its own lessons. Heather and I took our first trip together that spring. We drove north to the waterfall trail she once mentioned on that first dinner night. The hike was quiet, long, and beautiful. Standing at the top, looking over miles of green and silver water, she turned to me. "Any regrets?" she asked. "About what?" I said. "Any of it. The marriage ending. The timing." "None." "You sure?" She pressed gently. "I'm sure. If anything, I just wish I'd realized sooner that peace isn't found in keeping broken things." She smiled, resting her hand in mine. 6 months later, word drifted through mutual friends that Amanda was engaged. Some man she met online, 3 weeks after the divorce finalized. I didn't feel anger, not even sadness, just relief. She finally found someone to fit the story she wanted to live. Heather and I moved in together the following year. No separation, no trial run, no half measures. We made decisions together, laughed easily, fought fairly, forgave quickly. Life became simple again, not perfect but honest. Sometimes, when the evening light hits the kitchen window just right, I remember that first night by the grill, the smell of smoke and rosemary, and the moment I realized the woman across from me wasn't the same one I married. It doesn't hurt anymore. It just reminds me how far I've come. People show you who they are if you stop trying to rewrite them. Amanda showed me she wanted freedom without consequence, and in doing so, she set me free too. I finally understood that love isn't about who you start with. It's about who stands beside you when everything else falls apart. So if you've ever been left, betrayed, or made to feel like a backup plan, remember this. Sometimes the best revenge is just living a life that doesn't need explaining. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell me in the comments what you think freedom really means. Because in the end, the truth always finds its way home.